Oh, thank you for recording it, Peter. Well, hi, Michelle. How are you?
I'm okay. Aaron's walking the dog. He will be back. I said, "Oh, there's this meeting." And he says, "Oh, I want to go to that one."
Oh, yeah, hopefully he'll share because I just saw him at the Youth Sahavas and when I got to connect.
He's
He
on
said,
fire.
he said something so sweet to me. He was like, I walked by and he was talking to some of his friends and he was like, and that one over there helped raise me. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. So Jay Baba, everybody, Peter and I are back from the Youth Sahavas, which was a very intense Youth Sahavas. Um, I'm sure Peter can attest to that as well. Am I right, Peter?
Yeah, yes, it was intense, and I wasn't even a counselor. I had a different role, but it was really hard. I picked that up as a center staff and transportation coordinator.
Yeah, it was a busy one, but Baba was
Yes.
working on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that kind of is what triggered tonight's topic. Michelle, who does the podcast that I do, God in the Real World, and I just did an episode on, kind of like the post-Sahavas blues, and I realized it's something that everybody experiences. Of course, the youth Sahavas, it's like devoted to the youth, but for all Sahavas experience or like a pilgrimage to India, it can be very difficult to integrate back into the world, and then you kind of get back to your life and you think, what the hell am I doing here? So I'm going to read the email tonight just because I feel like it's kind of in my words, but I'll share it on the screen. Oh, can you just let me share, Peter?
All right, now you should be able to share. Try it now.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Jay Baba, I hope all of you are doing well, and I have missed you all while I was at the Youth Sahavas, and that is plural, Peter and myself. It was an intense, beautiful week filled to the brim with Baba's love. For all who did attend the Youth Sahavas, there's a bit of post-Sahavas blues that happens when re-entering the world, which sparked the idea for tonight's subject. After we have spent time in the fragrance of his love, it can be difficult to go back into our regular everyday life. This is a feeling that isn't exclusive to the Youth Sahavas, but applies to all Sahavas or pilgrimages. I've been chatting with my fellow sahavasees about the challenge of how to bring that love into the world. I thought a perfect topic tonight would be exploring all the ways you keep the feeling of Sahavas alive. Maybe you all know this, but the definition of Sahavas is the give and take of love or togetherness. How do you keep this feeling alive in your life? Another theme is the tendency to uproot your life after an event like that with Baba. Why is that? Is it an attempt to find that feeling in the world? Has Baba shaken up your life to make more room for him after one of those? I once heard Jeff compare our trips home to him in capital, like a dog sniffing his clothes. He brings his fragrance into our lives to remind us of just what we're searching for. Is our longing to be back in Sahavas just a micro experience of how we are to long for God? Does he give us a hit of bliss to remind us what the real goal is? I'm looking forward to hearing all the ways you bring the feeling of Sahavas into the world and keep it alive within yourself. In his love, Margi and Peter. Well, does anyone have anything that they feel inspired by, or even just like talking about what it was like integrating back into everyday life after your last pilgrimage or after Sahavas? Oh, we have Momo.
Yep. So this is my I think this is my new nickname. Also, yeah, I can explain later. But I've written quite a bit about this already. I've pre-prepared, which I always like to do when I have the chance. And I think it's such an interesting topic. Yes, it's so strange because it's literally like going into like the barber space where there can be like all this bliss and like it can be literally like another dimension, and then coming back into everyday life, and it can be like very jarring for me. It feels literally just like I'm on another planet basically. And the core, I've got lots to talk about, so if no one else wants to talk, I'll just be talking all the time.
Go
But
for it. Just go on
the
go on
core,
a reel.
the core what I was writing about is that it seems that I think it's intentional. Like I think that there's sometimes where we're with Baba in community, and sometimes where we're just with Baba, you know, and that we sort of dilate between the two. You know, it's pretty rare, I think, for people to just be in Baba community all the time in that Sahavas zone. And so what I try and do is, I guess what I'm trying to cultivate is the Sahavas within, you know, the 2-person Sahavas of just Josh and Baba, which is a big challenge, is big. It's different. It's not as, you know, it can feel a little bit clunky, you know, but I think remembering Baba goes a long way. And yeah, and it can, I also have been feeling some rewarding sensation from it. Like it has, I have been getting a little bit of that bliss as well, just from me and Baba. You know, it wasn't as easy to crack open and access. But yeah, you know, and things like these calls, I'd say too, I actually call them, you know, like a mini Sahavas, you know, it's like an astral Sahavas, you know, not literally astral, but just like we're projecting ourselves and we're connecting up all around the world. Yeah, so I think it's important, and I'd love to hear any tips and tricks other people have to cultivating that, yeah, that personal Sahavas after just leaving the great, you know, incredible fun Sahavas, because I have just actually maybe a week ago had to realize that I've got to cancel my end of year India trip because my long COVID fatigue has been so great that it's just unrealistic for me to do that. So yeah, so I'm cultivating, yeah, the just me Sahavas in Sydney by myself and with Baba Love in Sydney, but yes.
So when was the last time you were in Sahavas?
Depends on your definition. So I'd say actually just when we were last meant to chat, Margi, I went up to Avatar's abode for the anniversary, which was incredible. I felt like they didn't have many young people up there, and I was trying to foster some community spirit. But I actually think that in my guess and intuition is that Baba would have preferred me stay at home in Sydney, because it just, like, my health is still recovering. Like my long COVID is, I'm now just starting to get back levels of energy from, you know, and that was like maybe 4 weeks ago or something like that. It was good. And I think Baba was happy I was up there because I really put on a show, and I think I fostered some really good fun times. And so I think Baba wasn't like grumpy I was up there. I feel like he was very happy, but I feel like also he was saying the message that yeah, I'd like you to look after your health more than trying to, you know, make other people happy by visiting this place 16 hours train trip away. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna, since Josh is the only
Please
one
do. You can interview me as much as you want, Margi. And I'll do the same to you. I'll be
okay, perfect. I do want to, after we squeeze you dry, I want to switch over to Aaron because he just came off the Youth Sahavas. But did you feel like Baba shook anything up in your life after this last Sahavas that you were at?
Yes.
That's always the answer.
I know. It's it felt like, yeah, I actually think probably the most significant, like, book ending a new part of life in probably 6 or 7 years. Feels like he's probably actually put me into a new phase of life. You know, just because there were weird sort of stuff, like I'd finished my journal exactly, you know, as I was moving out of house, and all these dates, all these little synchronicities that, you know, mean nothing to other people, but to me, I'm like, whoa, okay, that life is ending. Now I'm moving into this new share house with other Baba lovers. Things could go really into a different phase. Oh, I'm on this new, my doctor's trying this new medication for me. Oh, new phase. Oh, you know, there's all this new stuff happening. So yes, I think he did. But yeah, completely.
So he kind of shook you up. I feel like that's kind of what Sahavas does, is it really brings up, and something that Josh, maybe you can kind of speak to how you feel about this, unless someone else has something to share. But I often feel after Sahavas that I just want to move to India, or I want to move to Myrtle Beach, or that's how I want to live my whole life. And after this Sahavas, I had that feeling. I was at the grocery store yesterday. It was my first day back. Oh, sorry.
Gesundheit.
God bless you.
Thank you. I was at the grocery store because I'm a personal chef, and so my job is pretty good too. It's not like I work at a job that I hate, but I was looking around the grocery store, looking at these people, and my eyes were like this, like just kind of thinking to myself, oh my gosh, these people have no idea how much love there is, and they're just like in Walmart right now, and they're just here thinking that this is okay, and just like totally gobsmacked that they were just okay being in Walmart. Meanwhile, I'm throwing like an internal temper tantrum that I just had to leave the Sahavas. But I really, this time I think was different, and coming to the understanding that Sahavas is just a re-upping of that fragrance, right? Rather than uprooting our lives. Of course, Baba does the changes, and it sounds like Baba started a whole new phase from the Sahavas for you. But that's kind of Baba's job. And I think a lot of times, maybe Aaron, you can speak to this too, that there is a tendency to want to have Sahavas all the time, or have pilgrimage all the time. Like, how many of you guys have gone to India, for example, and then decided that you're going to move to India when maybe that's not actually what Baba wants for you? It was just like that feeling was so intense that you have to bring that longing into the rest of your life.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, that's funny in the Walmart. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. Yeah, and it's yeah, it reminds me of I won't say his name, but I knew this guy, and every time he'd visit India, he'd say his wife would go there and his kids would be there, and he'd be like, honey, I'm leaving you behind. I've got to give it up and stay in India and be a fakir and give up the world and just live, on the streets or anything to be close to this tomb. And this would sort of happen each time he'd go to India. And, it was sort of this very funny, I mean, now in hindsight, it's a funny crisis event, but I mean, it's also rough for the wife as well, when your husband, each time you go to India, falls in love and wants to stay in India and give up the world. But yeah, I mean, also, it's also your choice,
I mean, it's easy to do that. It's really easy to get to that spot. I want to ask Aaron what his experience is post Sahavas. And if you're kind of sharing in any of the things that Josh and I are going back and forth about. And also, anyone else who wants to share, put your hand up.
It is, yeah. There's just such like separation anxiety, I guess, from all the people there. Some of us has been calling each other every day. But yeah, it's just like there's so much love there, and it's just unreal, almost to that point. And then you come back and you're like, oh my God. Oh, I'm back to the real world, as we call it.
The real world.
And it's terrible. It really is. You want to stay there forever, because just like I start thinking about all the people that I've met there and all the people that I've met in my real life, and there's so few people that I've met in my real life that I connect with as much as hundreds, like 100 people at Youth Sahavas, and it's just ridiculous. Just yeah, I can't. It's so hard to explain.
So do you feel after leaving this last Sahavas, which for us it was only, I don't even know how many, I still feel like I'm cross-eyed. 4 days ago. Do you feel like there's anything that you are bringing into your life now to like bring that feeling of Sahavas?
Trying to stay in touch with the people that I felt that love with, so much.
Mm.
Definitely helps. Trying to stay in contact with them, because we always say, "Oh, we're gonna stay in contact," and then we don't speak to them until next hours. Um, but yeah, definitely trying to talk to them and just say hello, check in, and you can kind of feel that connection a little bit. Um,
Can I interject? He
yeah,
totally brought the love home. It was just flowing off of him, and we had this little experience where we're all sitting on the porch, and I'm sitting on the porch swing out on our deck, and he's like telling us stories. He's telling us Charles' story about Erich. It was just so like
there's
it was great. It was
I
like we had a little Sahavas. He brought Sahavas home to me, and yeah. And he's like, yeah, but I don't feel it. It's like, but I know exactly how he feels, even though I've never been to Youth Sahavas. Going to India, every time I leave the center, every time I've left India, I'm in tears and my heart is breaking. And I asked Baba, how do you maintain that feeling of having you so near?
Mm.
That is, so,
yeah.
So how do you do it, Michelle? Or how do you attempt to do it?
music,
Mm.
take his name, say RT, spend time in silence. Um, you just try to remember him in every moment.
That's impossible.
It's impossible. But you know, when I'm walking the dog, when I'm doing things, when I'm cooking, I try to put Baba into it. Do I do it all the time? No, of course not. But do I attempt? On some days are better than others. Um, yeah.
Yeah. But I think, Aaron, you bring up a really good point, and I'm interested in what other people kind of have to share or talk about in regards to what Aaron said about how it's really the people that you connect with at Sahavas, and I'm not just talking about the youth Sahavas. I'm using Sahavas as the broader term, whether it's Baba's birthday in India or Amartithi in India or LA Sahavas or New York Sahavas. They're all over. And one of the richest parts of that are the connections of the heart. And Baba says that his work will continue through the internal links of his lovers. And I wonder this Baba Zoom is one way, but how do you bring that feeling of connection into your daily life? What is it that allows you to connect with your people, or how do you find your people, or do you struggle to find your people? Also, it's not always just like celebration stories. I think both Aaron and myself are on a bit of like a post Sahavas come down feeling. So it's like, oh, we just talked to these people that we just met. But also, 2 weeks ago, Aaron and I were on empty as far as that goes, right?
Yeah, yeah, you definitely get some withdrawal, but like, it, like you were saying, it's we bring Baba with us to these events,
Mm.
and we're it's just the combination of so much Baba and so many people that know him and that he's inside of them and have the ability to open the jar, as Wendy put it so lovely. Um, yeah, just we're all there's just so much Baba there because we're all bringing him with us.
Yeah. I think there's like a deep state of acceptance of one another at Sahavas, right? You can just show up how you are and be accepted. And Baba creates, whether it's, some Sahavas are urban, right? So they're like one day, or it's a 2 or 3 day thing, even like the Southeast Gathering, is 4 days or 3 days. But there is an acceptance of each other wholeheartedly. And I wonder how much we could create that feeling of Sahavas if we brought that feeling of acceptance into everyday life. Because when we're out, when we're out of Sahavas, there's a lot more trust in people. It's like, oh, we're all here for Baba. And so we can accept each other. But are we robbing ourselves of that feeling of Sahavas in the world by not bringing that same acceptance to everything we do?
That's an amazing point. And I think we need to accept each other as that, how Baba made us.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, I think when we have a relationship with Baba, it does in a way create a separateness. Of course, it creates a connection to people who love him. But when we're out in the world, we're separate because, oh, we might be the only Baba lovers in our city or in the current Walmart that we're in or whatever. And so there's that state of separateness. And I think that's what's different about Sahavas is there's that closeness because we share that. And I don't know, I've just been brainstorming ways because I tend to uproot my life after Sahavas. And this time I was like, no, Baba, that's not happening. What is it? What is it that I'm missing and what can I bring in
It's
to mimic? Go ahead, Aaron.
it's how we look at the world because we think with our brain when we're in the world, and when we're at Sahavas, we think with our heart, and we see with our heart. So everybody else in your when you see through your brain and see through your or think through your brain, everybody is so far away.
Mm,
That's why when people are very angry with each other and they are just yelling at each other, but they can't hear each other at all.
yeah.
But when we see with our heart and we talk with our heart and feel more with our heart, people become a lot closer.
Yeah. Also, something that, and I encourage anybody who feels inspired to talk. Otherwise, Aaron, Josh, and I can just go back and forth till somebody else wants to talk. But uh, part of what makes Sahavas so beautiful, or even, taking a pilgrimage to India, is the love that Baba's lovers pour into whatever is going on. Right. I was just at the LA Sahavas, and everyone at the LA Center was just pouring love into everything they did, whether Baba was coming through or not. Right. They were just like, well, I'm doing this for Baba, so I'm going to pour love into it. And I can say at the Youth Sahavas, even if, we had a tough night at the Youth Sahavas, we were supposed to have duty night, and there was a torrential downpour. It was like the biggest rainstorm they've had in Myrtle Beach in probably like 10 years. It was, yeah, Peter and Aaron can attest. Peter lives in Myrtle Beach. There was somebody in the nearby community who left me a voicemail and said that they were terrified in their condo because the lightning was so bad and striking so close. I mean, it was striking like on the center. Trees were down everywhere. But what was so beautiful about it is that everybody jumped to love as the answer. Like, okay, how can we make this happen? How can we make the campers experience have the most love? How can we bring the most love into it? And yes, of course, inevitably we're going to run into people who don't have that same approach to life, but how different would the world be if we applied that enthusiasm that we do in facilitating a Sahavas or being at a Sahavas into the world, rather than the world owes me something, so I'm going to take, versus I'm just going to pour my enthusiasm into creating as much love. And I mean, as staff on the Youth Sahavas, Aaron can speak to this too. You never know how kids are going to react. So we do a lot of things, and it's kind of like we just do things hoping for the best, not really knowing what would happen. And so what if we took that approach in the world? Like, how much different would our experience in the world be? Anyone have anything to speak to that? I might ask Peter, because Peter he played a different role at Sahavas. He was center staff. He did a lot of taxi driving for people.
It was. And I loved it. Like it was my first time helping out with the transportation committee. Like I was in touch with Jane Brown who's in Canada, and I was at the airport like half the day. The first day they came on Tuesday, greeted kids, got them on our shuttle taxis that we hire to drive them to the center. And then Sunday I drove like two kids to the airport from the center, and then I just was on the center making sure kids also got on the shuttles at the time because I did not want anyone to miss their flight from the airports, and I wanted everybody to make it home safely. But and then I helped out lifeguarding on the beach daily, which was an honor and fun. And then also played the role of center staff and made sure everything was good in center and supported the Walla team when they with their coordinators needed stuff. And it it was awesome. The energy is always higher. Like during Savas, it's hard to explain, but it's like different than normal times, and it's just a lovely atmosphere. It was fun catching up with people who I haven't seen in a while, and um, it was just a big love fest. But then, of course, living and working on the center, when Savas is over, it's definitely different. There's so much energy and physical energy and mental energy we put into Savas, and then even after, like cleaning up from Savas is a lot of work as well. Like even today, we just finished getting all the cabins ready for arrivals at 2 p.m. when most of the guests came on who were coming on today, and we found a lot of lost and found, and just a lot of like minor wear and tear on the center. But at the same time, it's worth it. It's definitely worth it with the connection that teenagers and we all make to Baba, and all of us that have been there a while to like renew our love in Baba. But at the same time, the center feels different now. It's like just more peaceful, more calm right now. It's a different type of energy. Like I was with Margi like right around. It was on Monday, like right around the same time. We all were like, "Yeah, the center shifted back to its normal year-round state of being." But that's 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 what's on my mind.
All right. So how do you feel like you're keeping up that spirit of Sahavas?
Um, just to keep up the spirit of Savas, like I just I try to have memories in my heart. I try my best, like just to go around, like when I see different guests, just to try to make connections with them. Sometimes it's tougher with some guests that I don't feel as connected to. Um, and I try to have keep my high energy up. That I feel like sometimes with the heat it is hard. And just with working um, and going from cabin to cabin, it's hard with our daily tasks, but my best just to keep the love and smile, even just smile to people and just know that I'm there for any guests on the center year round, whatever they need. But that's how I do it, or I try to do it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You're blessed because you get to be at the center year round. You get to keep
Oh,
you get to make other people's Sahavas feeling
it's an honor to
when
try
they
it.
come, when they come for pilgrimage.
Thank you.
So I want to pass the mic around, but does anybody else, kind of recall a feeling of coming home from pilgrimage or Sahavas or something like that, and just having that, oh God, what am I doing here in the world feeling? Okay, Shri. Sorry, Peter, I took your job.
So,
Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Shri.
Yeah, if you want to unmute, I accidentally I clicked unmute and then I guess text muted you.
I was just saying, I've never been to a Sahavas, and I will go one day, hopefully soon. But I think the closest thing I've felt is just like going to the center in general. Um, and I've only been there twice. And the second time it was around New Year's, so there was a lot of people there, and it was just like a special energy there because there were so many people there, and I got to see all the people that I became friends with the first time that I went, and it was just really heartwarming, and everyone can relate to that feeling. But then yeah, you leave the center and then you go straight to like the Myrtle Beach airport, which is like one of the worst places on earth. Especially like on New Year's Day. It's just awful. And I feel like I kind of, not like actual depression, but you fall into this like slump of like the world just seems so bleak inside the center, or like felt the same way when I went to the samadhi and stuff. Um, and it's just, again, it's like the people there, like the first time I went to the center was around a year ago. And I never thought, like, because I didn't grow up in a Baba family or anything, so I never had people to like talk to about Baba other than my brother. And it was just, and I felt like really lonely for a while because you have this like incredible thing, and I have other friends who are religious, but it was like, it wasn't the same. And found the center and became friends with like some really special people that I'm still friends with today. And you go there and you hang out with them and you laugh and you talk and all that, and you come back and you're like, well, crap, like now I just want to move back there or whatever. And I realized, like, I was going through a really tough time earlier this year, and I was like, I just want to move to Myrtle Beach, blah, blah, blah. And I realized that was just me running away from my problems instead of actually dealing with them, because I can deal with my problems just as fine here in Atlanta as I can in Myrtle Beach, if not probably better here, because I don't have the center as like a coping mechanism in a way, as wonderful as it is. And I realized, like, well, why do I love the center so much? Why do I just like look at anyone in the center and just feel this like outpouring of love towards them? When, like, Margie, I thought it was funny when you talked about Walmart, because I've literally had that experience before, when you're just like in a normal place and you're look at people and you're kind of just like, what are you doing? And not in a mean way, but just like, there's so much like greatness out there or whatever. And I realized it's only the thing, like, when you realize someone loves Baba, you have this like natural increase of love towards them. And I realized, well, you love them because they love Baba, which means they recognize themselves in some way as Baba. The other people that you see in Walmart just haven't done that yet. Or maybe they have, and it's with Jesus or with Krishna or whoever, but you don't know that. And so just because they're not outwardly showing it to you, because they don't say Jai Baba when you walk by them, like you would at the center or something, doesn't make them any less deserving of just like a random like outpouring of love from you. And it was weirdly like, I think when I realized that, and this was like a few months ago, I started noticing myself just be happier internally. And it's because you realize, like, you kind of, yeah, obviously at the center it's beautiful and the people are amazing and everyone loves Baba and it's all just like happy. But that can translate to the outside world too. Like, sure, maybe illusion is thicker in the outside world, whereas at the center it's kind of easier to look at things and be like, oh, this is what really matters in life, and all this extra stuff is just stuff that we, have to kind of do, whether it's a job or whatever, to get through life. But I think lately I've been learning to give people the benefit of the doubt, and you don't ever know what someone is thinking or who they are or what they believe, until you really talk to them. And I think before I'd kind of just like not be dismissive of people, but yeah, just not really give them that chance. And I don't even need to, like, no one needs to prove themselves to me, and I don't need to prove myself to anyone. But the realization kind of that, like, we're all just like doing this together. I used to think like within the center, it was like people who are Baba lovers and then like kind of the rest of the world in a weird way. But I realized, for me at least, that's not how I should look at it. Because we're all him at the same day. And if you can recognize that in people, then I think you just get happier internally, you get less pissed off at people, and generally people irritate you less.
Yeah, really beautifully said, and also such a good reminder that, I think Josh put it in the chat, but just because somebody doesn't love Baba doesn't mean they don't love God. Like, Baba, yeah, Baba's like the shortest. I think Baba's the shortcut, and I think most of us here, maybe I'm wrong, feel that Baba's our master and we love him deeply, but there are more paths to God than there are souls in the universe. And maybe that person shopping in Walmart is on their, they are exactly where they need to be on that path. And even, this is all just coming up because at the Youth Sahavas, like, connection is so important. And a lot of, as a counselor, especially, I know they do this in the worker well staff a little bit, but in the counseling staff, the prep is like a ton of emotional labor. We do connection work for 3 days. Like, it feels like you're in therapy for 3 days straight, getting ready to be a counselor in the Youth Sahavas, because you're really preparing to be able to support teens, and teens are going through crisis, right? They're going through social anxiety, especially in the world now. It's like, what am I going to do with my life? Gender identity, who am I? Am I accepted? Am I cool on social media? It's just so many layers that even I didn't have to deal with as like a 14, 15, 16-year-old. But even in the counseling staff, you know, growing up with Baba people, you of course have your people that you're more connected to. And a lot of the work we do is like having one-on-one conversation. Like they'll give us like 10 minutes to talk one-on-one with somebody about some question. And even in that, with these people that I grew up with, the people that I maybe felt less connected to just because we haven't connected over the years, as soon as they started talking and sharing their own inner world, it made me realize like what a depth each individual person has, and how it's really sad that in daily life, we don't get to see that depth that people have day to day, right? You know, like some of the questions are like, I think one of the questions is like, what's your biggest fear? And just seeing like how people light up when you ask them about their internal world, even if they don't believe in God, everyone has an inner world of some capacity. And getting curious is really a way to keep that feeling of sahavas and connection alive. Anyone else feeling, or anyone else who's gone already want to say anything? Aaron, Job?
I have a question for both of you guys, Aaron and Margie.
Yeah.
What were your highlights of Youth Sahavas?
Oh, um, that's really hard. I'm gonna go off of Margie and be like, yeah, it was the connections that I made with all the worker walls and everybody, because there's people on there who I'd met for the first time. Um, there was uh, one of them. I mean, I met my first year at Sahavas. We've gone almost all the way through together. Um, besides, he missed last year, which was our me and his last year as campers. But we got to join each other on staff this year, and that was really nice to reconnect with him. Yeah, just I mean, I met all these different people that like I've seen around, or like they were on staff because they're a couple years older than me, or couple more than a couple, and just getting to connect to them, and I've gotten some lifelong friends through that, just over 9 days. Like, it's 9 days, and I feel more connected to some of these people than I am to friends that I've known all through high school or something like that. And I met them 9 days ago, or well, 12 days ago now, or something, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, also, like, I'm very excited. I don't know if I'm going to be a counselor the next year, but I'm definitely applying for it. That's definitely what I'm doing. That'd be fun.
Yeah, get ready to not sleep, Aaron.
Oh, I already didn't sleep. I was up at 7 and went to bed at like 1 or 2 every night. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's like, I love being a counselor, but the hardest part is the lack of sleep. It is like, it's intense. But I mean, I would say my highlight is very similar. It's of course like being in the basket of Bob's love, and it's also connecting to people through that, which is like kind of why I made it a topic for tonight, because I just wanted to know like how people keep that alive, or if they're longing to have that feeling in everyday life. But a highlight for me, you know, part of one of the best things about being on staff is getting to see how the staff comes together to kind of manage crisis, to make it really special for the campers. Because I mean, it gives your ego a nice boost to know that you made something happen. But then it's also like really beautiful watching how like your love and service really directly affects the campers' experience. So on Dooney night, it was like, we're supposed to have Dooney at 8 p.m. and at 7:45, another counselor, and then one of the worker wall coordinator and I sat down and was like, okay, so if it starts raining in the next 15 minutes, how are we going to do this? And so within like 15 minutes, we're like, okay, we'll get a bowl, we'll get some lights, we'll get a sari that's red, we'll cover the bowl so it looks like fire, we'll put it on the stage, we'll bring the music while it's inside. And I mean, it was just, even though it was stressful, it was beautiful to see like what love can create. Cause that's really what it was. Like, we don't get paid, you know what I mean? And most of us, like, a lot of people lose a lot. I know for myself, like, I take a ton of time off work. I got to pay to get there. And it's, you know, it's just love that we want to do it for. And it really motivates everyone to do it. And then during Dooney, it was amazing to watch everybody come together because it was pouring outside, all the musicians who do arty and stuff and play the music were stuck in the rain. And so like their instruments were going to get wet. Somebody brought them trash bags to cover their instruments in. Some of the counselors like bolted for the cabins because we have beds on the porch because the beds are overstacked or whatever. And so some of the counselors went dashing through the rain to pull all the beds and all the stuff. And then I was inside, and I was so lucky to get to I like organized the Dooney fire and the Christmas lights in the big bowl with the red cloth over it. And then like somebody ended up on the projector screen, like put a fire up. So it kind of correlated with that. But then one of the most beautiful parts was as the music wallas were kind of settling in and drying off, there was a lot of like talking. I mean, they're teenagers, right? They want stuff going on. And I looked at one of the co-counselors and I was like, oh, should I do a round robin Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai? And so I just started singing Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai, like they do at the Samadhi. And within like 30 seconds, every kid was singing along. And it just really like set the tone of like, even though we're inside, this is still Dooney and we can still make the most of it. And we went on for a good 3 or 4 minutes before the music walls were actually ready to start playing. And that was like one of my highlights because it just showed that spontaneous love. Like I didn't have that pre-planned. Baba, for some reason, brought it up in me and it came out and it created this love, this outpouring that connected everybody. But yeah.
That's beautiful, Margie. Thank you for sharing. And
Yeah.
I was honored. It was like right before Jimmy, like right after dinner. It was an honor. I remember you guys. We were thinking like, oh, what can we bring in the main place? And we finally settled on beach towels. So I remember
Yes.
I brought a whole I got one of the worker walls to help me because it was really heavy, that tub, and we brought beach towels to the main place, and then I took off, and I just felt so glad that that part of the job got done. It got done fast. We picked something to like bring so they could dry off in the rain, and that was awesome. And then Barbara was so nice to just wash them and dry them at her house, and
Yeah, it was a
saw
lot of
pictures
beach
in the
towels.
video. Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of beach towels.
I
Thank
was
God we had all those beach towels and ready to use and put to good use for Dooney night in the main place.
Yeah.
I
But
was
on
on,
that note, like, what'd you say, Aaron?
I was on the front lines of that. Me and Savannah were the first ones to get hit because everybody else was. We like started screaming like, everybody get their stuff inside.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And it gives me this like hope in the world that if the world could get that, you know, that feeling of working together and really like holding each other up, and just that was what the coolest part about that night was that all of these staff stepped into different roles, right? Like it's not, you know, there's the different jobs that each staff member has, but like Allie Lawton, who was head of the worker wallas, which is kind of like the coordination staff, that she stepped into the music walla role because like one of the music wallas got rained on, and then, you know, it works out. Or like, you know, I stepped up and made the Dooney, which would have been like a worker walla role. And, you know, bringing that spirit of enthusiasm just to make things happen with love into the world can like, keep that Sahavas alive.
Also, Ivy got her ukulele out before
Yeah,
any
yeah.
walls came, and she's a counselor, and she just started playing a song by herself in front of all these kids, and I was like, oh wow,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
it's really beautiful. Again, if anybody feels called to share anything, speak up. I see that David Flowers is on. He was also,
Hello, hello.
hi David.
How's it
Um,
going?
good, how are you?
I'm great. Just winding down for the evening. Just wanted to hop on and say hi.
Good one. Glad you popped on. we're talking about bringing the feeling of sahavas out into the world. And so is there anything that you've kind of started doing in the last 4 days that is helping you keep the feeling of togetherness alive?
Yeah, so at my job with my coworkers that I haven't really like gotten along with, like I haven't really liked in the past. Like we've gotten along all right, but I would say just being more open to love and not like judgment and holding grudges. 'Cause I think like as you described, especially at that Dooney night, we all were in like a unity or a circle of love with each other. I don't think there was probably any grudges too bad to speak of, but just being more open to the love that's all around us, I would say, is how I'm keeping Sahavas alive. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Thanks, David. Appreciate it. Does anybody else have somebody else? Do I need to call on other people, make them speak up?
Marsha, you look like you're
Oh,
gonna say something. Any experiences like from leaving Myrtle Beach or India? Like,
Oh yeah, I'm always first time I left Myrtle Beach, hit the airport, and I always feel like when I'm in at the center, I'm in paradise, and then I step out into the gross world. But then I'll sit in the airport and I'm looking at people, and I feel like I'm glowing, and that I feel like I'm putting all this energy, good energy out for people, and that's what Baba wants us to do. We're like his little Baba flashlights. But then when I go home, I get so up in the sky that I everybody thinks I'm crazy. So I've learned to stay away from people till I can come down. And sometimes when I wake up, I'll be thinking I'm in India, or I'm not sure if I'm in a Myrtle Beach and I'm at home in my bed. So it's kind of like, okay, whatever. But right now I just signed up. I'm excited to go to the Sahavas in Asheville, because I'm always jealous when I hear people at Sahavas about, actually, it's Margi, it's your fault because you came back from the Sahavas and you were saying how great it was in India. So I said, I'm not going to miss this one. So I just booked to go, but it was a pain in the neck booking. You know how Baba puts you through all this stuff when you're doing computers. So I was about to give up, and then it started to work. So Baba likes you to go through all this stuff and then it starts to work, or it doesn't. And you just say it's not in your control, because he's like Baba's living in us, and we're his creation. Anyway, I'm blabbing, so I'm stopping.
no, beautiful. Yeah, no, I feel like Baba spoils me. I've been Sahavas hopping this year. I was in India for Amartiti and Baba's birthday, and then I was at the Oklahoma Sahavas for the Prague Sahavas, and then I was in LA, then I was at the Youth Sahavas, and now Jeff and I are about to do a Generation XYZ Sahavas, then I'm going to the London Sahavas. So I'll give you guys all the Sahavas energy through me. Marion, I saw you had your hand up.
Yes, kind of encouraged by you. As I didn't know what to say, I didn't want to just relate facts, By facts, I mean, what I did when. So I've never been to a Sahavas, and I don't know exactly what to put into words. You know how it is, there are no words for some things, but we do our best. And that is, I've been fortunate to have, as we all do, very clear messages from Baba, either in English or intuitive. So I went to India once, and I went to Myrtle Beach, I think like 2 or 3 times, and that was it. And I was kind of held away from these places. And because I went to the 1969 Darshan, and it was just, I won't go into details, it was just such an amazing time how I got there, and my experience. And so I'm usually the oldest one on the calls, probably. And So I've gone through so many phases, in my life of being in community, and here in New York City, our Meher Baba house, and the evolution of our Meher Baba house. And now there is no, we still have an email, but we don't have a site anymore. Place after COVID, we had to let go of our physical space. So that has disappeared. And so I'm in this deeper level of trusting in, and my children are grown up, my grandchildren are grown up. It's like I'm back alone again. And so that's why I appreciate Zoom, because I know it's Baba's way of, expanding into the world in ways that we're now so connected and experiencing that on the human level. So my days are very, very different. I went through a trauma hit and run accident where I had all of my mask ripped away. And so I'm out in a new life. I call it my new life at this elder age. And I'm meeting people that are so different. I've always met very different people, but now it's like, I live in New York City. It's like people I meet on the street. It's that heart to heart connection. We may never see each other again, but today I met this man, and here I'm short and white, and he was tall and black, and he brought it up like we look so different, and yet we connect so deeply. He just passed because I had on my T-shirt that looked like the Cheshire Cat, had face, and teeth and all, and his website, where he's a musician, he has the face of the Cheshire Cat on it.
Oh, that's
So
great.
that's what, when we passed each other on Broadway, that's what brought us together. And we came and we both acknowledged, it's almost as though we bowed to each other. It's as though we bowed to each other. The heart connection is so we may never see each other again. But that has what Baba has me being with, is detachment from all my karmic connections. I've been taken to other dimensions for that. And I know this life is about ending all expectations from anybody and all karmic connections. So now we're going to have a Northeast gathering here in October in New York.
Oh,
It's like, oh my gosh. I always went to the Northeast gatherings, and like Kitty came up once, different people come as our guests. And so that's about it. It's just kind of a general sharing. I don't have any sum up. I'm not summing anything up, but it's like each day is very different, and there doesn't feel like there's any path. It's just, this is it. And it's really an illusion. And I shift back and forth between the human and divine. And so that I have empathy for my human self as I shift into, as we all are on the planet, spirit having the human experience. And so I have to shift back and forth so that I develop that empathy and can be an example for others, not an example that separates me, no better and worse than, but living something that other people are longing to connect through. So that's it. I've done my best to put it in some words.
I
And
think you said it. You spoke beautifully. And also, you bring up a beautiful point of, a lot of people have this idea the world is such this like negative place where you can't ever meet people, but it's really how you come into the world. And you just said that, you're having these beautiful heart connections because you're coming from a hard space. It's not like you're seeing a different reality than other people. It's just that you're choosing to, when you come with your heart, other people feel comfortable opening up with their heart. So yeah.
yes, because and the connections, even the spiritual connection, is just amazing. And so I'm having to rely on that, being more and more in the now, and releasing my past. So anytime the past is up, it's in my face to release the past and any attachment to the past or the future. And that being in the now. So I meet those other like-minded, open-hearted souls that are doing the same thing.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you. And thank you so much for leading this, all of you being there, because this is so important in my life to have the connections and hear everyone and see you. Yes.
Oh, that makes sense.
Thank you, Marianne. And so at some point, maybe this would definitely be another Zoom, a future Zoom. I would love to hear your stories and remembrances of the 69 Darshan. I did
Wow.
not realize you were there. That must have been very special.
Yes. Such grace being there.
Yeah, I can imagine. And Gail, you have your hands up.
Yes, I do. And I appreciate the topic. And I would have thought, well, I didn't go to a Youth Sahavas. I mean, I was probably in my 50s when I came to Baba. But the Chapel Hill group, one of the things we do is we go to the quarry in Durham, which is now a closed quarry, but we go and swim. And it may be, it's gotten to be a Monday thing. The last 2 Mondays, first there were 8 people, and the second time there were 3, and I think there'll probably be more like 13 or 10 or something. And what I realized is that we just look forward to the calm. It reminds me of the center. Had not thought of that. That it's very wooded. We go in maybe 3/4 of a mile, and of course out 3/4 of a mile. And it's been rainy. We look at the mushrooms and take pictures of them, because all different kinds of chitra can identify lots of animal things. And so we look at the wildlife, we talk to the people, and some people don't even know there's a quarry because it's a part of the Eno River park system in Durham. So some people just come out to walk, but it really is a little Sahavas where we all bring something to eat. So we'll meet at 9:30 in the morning, and a lot of us are retired, not all. But we make time for one another. We have a potluck meal, and the quarry's very, very still. It feels like silk, but we're all Baba people. And it's just, I realized we have our own little small Sahavas, just that the fact that we get together and make it happen. I like that. Not everybody can come, but it's just an opportunity to make it happen and to have fun. I mean, the last 10 months have would not be described as fun. So this just seems like part of my new life. I'm in a new house, new apartment in a big house that all of them are apartments. And so that's coming together, and I really like where I live. It's very wooded, and it's right across the street from the 1870 farm where Kalyan's son, what is his name, who is a worker walla?
Oh, Daniel.
Daniel works there. Right,
Oh.
he's directly right across the street, and I may have seen him this morning. It looked like him running the stop sign, because we're in a horse farm area and something. So I'm right across from where Daniel works. So anyway, I like the topic, and it made me realize that I have a little series of sahabis, sahavasees, whatever. And it made me realize that I have that in my life, and I have people that I connect with. So thanks for the topic.
Yeah, beautifully said. Thank you. I really appreciate that share. And then also, I do like that you mentioned that you never have been to a Youth Sahavas. And I know that often is a feeling for a lot of the older generation, is like, why don't we have something like the Youth Sahavas? And the Youth Sahavas is very, very, very special. Baba does something, and I think Peter can attest to this, but the center changes. I don't know what it is, but Peter and I were sitting with Jeff and Annie on Monday afternoon, and all the workers had kind of started to leave. The center was getting put back, and I'm very energetically sensitive, and I felt the whole center go from zzz to just back to kind of its refuge. And it was like someone flipped a switch. It wasn't like a gradual thing. I felt the energy just get turned off. And so it is very lucky. But hearing you say that is, I think, so amazing, because it's not exclusive to Youth Sahavas. right? Like you could have a sahavas of 2 people. It doesn't have to be this big event. I think Baba said, Baba says a lot of things, and so I don't really know how much weight I put on this, but I think he said if 5 of my lovers are gathered together in my name, I am there. But then he also says I am always there. And so sometimes, I'm like, is he just saying that because he's always there? Or but it's nice to think about.
Well, there's the Asheville Music Sahavas coming up, which anybody could go to. And it's wonderful. It may not be your year this year, but put it on the map. Think about going. That's at an actual Sahavas, and it's for not just adults and not just youth, it's for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. This Youth Sahavas has kind of prompted, I don't know if you guys know Michelle McKeever, but her and I do the God in the Real World podcast, which is a Baba podcast. That's gotten quite a bit of traffic. And so we got this inspiration, and we're going to be starting a social media page, which for some of you older folks, maybe it's not the thing, but for some of the younger folks, we're going to be working on getting all of the Sahavas posted on that worldwide. Because I know a lot of young people, and also older generation too. I'm not saying young people like teenagers, I'm talking more like 30s, 40s age. They don't know what all the Sahavas are. So we are working on a project to get all of them into one space. And so if you follow us on there when it's launched, I'll let everybody know. But that's the plan, to be able to kind of make a more worldwide connection. So very similar to Baba Zoom, but that'll come in the future. But does anyone else have anything that they want to share, get off their heart, or bring? Because I'm happy to keep it short and sweet tonight. We're at about an hour. Anyone? No? Okay. Erin, do you want to, so every year we have a Sahavas theme. And Erin, do you want to share what the Sahavas theme was? Because essentially the Sahavas theme is just a Baba quote that we pick. And it might be nice to end with that Baba quote and then just have a moment of silence. Do you remember it, Erin?
I don't. I remember the essence of it, but I don't remember it word for word.
Okay, well, let's hear what you got from it. And then
Okay.
I'll actually share.
It was pretty much do your best and then don't worry. Is like the second half of it, that's the part that I could remember.
Yeah.
There was there was some other before. There was something else before it, like a couple words, but it's pretty much.
I mean, in Aaron's defense, he's not a counselor, and the worker wallas, we call them the slaves because they just work all day.
We were
They're out
told
to eat.
it once.
What'd you say?
We were told the quote like once.
Yeah, so in your defense, you don't have to know that. As a counselor, I have to know that. But the quote was, so we'll end with this: always work with all your heart, hoping for the best, and then don't worry. I'll say it one more time, and then we'll have a moment of silence. Always work with all your heart, hoping for the best, and then don't worry.